Hello and welcome to this demonstration of how to paint Custodes gold and red to the primary colours that constitute the Custodians or Legio Custodes colour scheme. Now I'm often asked, how do I paint my gold? How do I paint my red? And frustratingly I answer a question with a question. What kind of gold are we trying to produce? What kind of red are we trying to produce? In this video I'll be showing you how to create this older, more weathered gold effect, as well as a deeper, richer red, which I believe is more in keeping with the stylistic artwork and themes of the Horus Heresy miniature range. So we have an example here of a custodian I have painted previously, and the kind of techniques we will be involving in this process. So this video just covers the airbrushing stage. Part 2 will be available at the end of the month, where we will be tackling the brush stages and just refining what we do at the airbrush stage. Okay, so we have this handsome devil here. So it's undercoated using Scale 75's black primer. And I'm just going to concentrate on producing the red for the shoulder pads. So we'll be going through the pre-coating technique, where we are using the zenithal highlighting principle to add light and shadow at this initial stage. So this is just a sketch stage. You can be quite free in how you apply the white on top of the black. We're just trying to sketch in light and shadow tones. And I only want the shoulder pads to be red. The rest of the Dreadnought chassis will be gold. So once that's dry, we are taking our red colour. I believe it's Antares red or maybe blood red from the Scale 75 range. The paints will be up in the description just for a more accurate colour matching. I believe it's blood red. I'm just going to coat the entire surface with red. As you can see, the first layer going on is very thin, very translucent. It doesn't give a consistent result, but that's what we are looking for. We don't want to flood the miniature at this initial stage. And then the second layer going on, and as you can see, it produces a much more dynamic, much stronger red tone. Okay, now we're using blood red with a touch of Elandil violet for our first shadow. We use purple to shade the red because we want a slightly more fantastical appearance to our red. We don't want to desaturate that red initially. We want to play around the colour wheel to see what we can do. So when we put down our red, when people ask you, okay, what colour red do you paint your Marines, or what colour red do we paint this? Well, frustratingly, I can't give a straight answer because it's a combination of different hues. So the initial layer I put down is our base tone, our base layer. That's our blood red, and from there we modulate the colour. Now we could do this by moving around the colour wheel and shade colours with colours. Alternatively, perfectly on cue, we can add black to desaturate a colour. So as you can see, I'm overlaying the colour on top of our previous layer. This technique, unsurprisingly, is known as layering. So when you add colours on top of one another, very thin translucent colours, eventually they will build up to a consistent layer. And this is the key for producing really nice airbrushed or layered miniatures, to have that nice smooth continual blend. Next up we have Antares red by Scale 75. This is a slightly more saturated, brighter hued red for the first highlighting layer. Again, very thin tones. You're going to get sick of hearing me say this. Thin your paints, and if you think they're thin enough, thin them again. Then we apply it on the surface. First highlight. Again, this should overlap or overlay the white layers we put down initially. This will give us a lot more substance in the highlights. Okay, we'll move on to hot orange. So we are moving around the hues. We are moving around the colour wheel. Add a touch thinner. So we're working within bands of light here. We want to lay out colours on top one another to produce a consistent result. As you can see here, I'm just adding a bit of hot orange to the highlight. And because of the white we've used in the underlayer, that's going to really pop up. It's going to make the orange seem a lot more vibrant. So I'm just adding some flesh tone here. Go straight in, and we're working in constricting bands of light to create the illusion of a highlight. We have our secret weapon here, Windsor Newton ink. Other inks are available, of course. Vallejo do a really good range of inks, as well as Scale 75. I picked up a set of Windsor Newton inks because they were on sale on Amazon, and I couldn't resist. Since then, there's no looking back. Really highly pigmented, and the reason why we are using inks at this stage is because we want to saturate the area. We want to resaturate that red colour to make it a lot more vibrant, a lot more eye-catching to the viewer. So, and it also helps smooth out any awkward transitions that we may have had. It makes the violet look red, or gives it a red overcoat. Same with any unusual hue marks. We can just blend it all together to create a seamless highlight. I often get asked, how do I achieve that chrome-like gold effect where it's so lustrous and has such depth to it? Well, my trick is I spray it silver. So this is a play on the pre-coating technique where we take a dark colour, black, or in this case a gold colour, and we add a lighter colour, silver or white, to create those false highlights. Now in metallics we need to, it's a different highlighting process with metallics. We can't just work up with silvers up through golds, because you won't have that kind of luminosity. So I like punching through that and going straight for silver, like a very high silver. So we're using Aluminium here by Vallejo. What this will do, we're just sketching in the highlights for where the gold will be, and then we'll be going back to our Dwarf gold, scale 75. We'll be using that as a filter layer to help unite everything together. So don't be afraid to push the contrast with this stage. We're sketching in the shadows and lights, and then the next stage we'll cover this up. So we're diving back into our gold, and we're going to water this down a lot more than we may have done initially. So we want to put a lot of thinner into this coat to create almost like a filter layer. Well, not almost, it does create a filter layer. So as you can see, there's a lot more thinner in with pure dwarf gold at this stage. I'm just going to airbrush it over the silver and into the mid-tone. As you can see, it masks everything, unites everything together. It makes it look gold rather than those harsh silver transitions. Okay, this stage may seem a little strange to new patrons or people who haven't gone through the gold course with me. So we're using green, Arphen Jade from scale 75 and green ink from scale 75 with a pinch of matte medium. Now with the matte medium, get the Vallejo stuff. I don't really like using the stuff I'm showing you in the video. Take my word for it. Get the Vallejo stuff. It comes slightly more liquid rather than this like paste-like material. It's not the greatest. So what this will do is establish our shadows. By adding green into the shadows, any subsequent layers of shadow we add on top of these will deepen it. So in effect, we are using our knowledge of the colour wheel, complementary colours, to shade one another. So we're adding interest in the shadows by shading colours with colours. And it will look like a 5-year-old's done it first. So don't worry if it looks a bit strange at first. It will. It naturally will. Don't worry. It will come together. So as you can see, I'm putting on the green here. If it'll come out of my airbrush. Nope, having no luck with it. I think I might have to give it a quick change around. Okay, just fiddling around with the airbrush. Ah, there you go, it's working again. Yay! Whoever says that you save time by airbrushing is a liar. So as you can see, we're just airbrushing green onto those parts of the armour that we want to exist in the shadow. And this is our first shadowing stage. This isn't our stronger shadows, but it's our midway shadow stage. It'll make sense when we come to the end of this process, when we start overlaying colours on top of it. So we've just finished up the green stages, and we will now move on to the purple stages. So quick colour change, dumping out the green, putting the purple in instead, and this will be in our darker shadows. Again, same process. I've used Arphen, no, not Arphen Jade, I'm sorry, Elandil Violet by scale 75. I'm just shading that in all the areas. I've just used Elandil Violet at this point. I haven't placed another ink in with it, and I haven't used matte medium because the acrylic paint is naturally matte anyway. So I'm just working that into all the recesses and all the gaps. Anywhere that the darkest parts of shadow would exist, that's where I'm placing this. The next stage, we have taken hull brown from Vallejo's range, and this will be our connecting layer. So we're airbrushing this as a very, very thin layer of paint we're adding here, and we're airbrushing this over the purple and the green. Just forms a slightly more natural brown effect, slightly more natural shading effect for that gold. It enriches the gold also, which is a really nice after effect. So as you can see, those gregarious bits of green and purple are just being knocked back by this coat, but it deepens the shadow overall because it neutralizes. So the green and purple, it neutralizes the warm tones in the hull brown. So when the hull brown overlaps with our gold tones, it's warm and it blends into cool shadows. At this point, the gold has lost some of its luster, so as a final connecting piece for all of this, I use Vallejo's gold. And again, this is a very watered down paint. I'm just going to airbrush this between the highlight and mid-tone, just to reintroduce a little bit more of that golden metallic luster to the scheme. I'm just correcting any mistakes that I've made, anything I want to just improve at all. So as you can see, the sculpt, the way this the wings are sculpted onto the chest, you can actually angle your dreadnought in such a way where you're just picking up the highlighted portions of it, and you can avoid the shadows there. But don't worry if it spills over, because we will be correcting any of these minor mistakes with the brush at a later stage. So the airbrush is just to establish tones and hues. It's not a detailing tool. You can't just paint a miniature with this, because it'll just look airbrushed, and we're missing out on so many more opportunities to refine and detail the miniature. And those are the goal stages done. This is one of my favourite bits of the painting process. It feels a bit like Christmas, where you get to unwrap your present and you get to see whether anything has spilled over onto your paint job, or if you've masked it off properly. Luckily for us, in this demonstration video, I've done a pretty good job. There's no overspill, we have that vibrant red, and we have the gold. So thank you very much for your patronage, guy, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you.